Hi guys, this is Erin Stewart of Savor and Sweat, and I'm excited to be taking you through one of my favorite clean eating dishes. It's my roasted butternut squash and farro salad with some cranberry vinaigrette and Hearty greens. And I'm making this for resolution, and I cannot wait for you guys to give this a try. So the first step to get started is to work with our butternut squash. So as you see in your recipe card, the butternut squash has already been peeled and diced and seeded. So I have a full butternut squash here, and we're just gonna toss it with a little bit of maple, olive oil, salt and pepper, and get it onto a parchment-lined sheet pan right into the oven. This takes the longest, so we're gonna start with this. So I have about a tablespoon or so of pure organic maple syrup. There are no additive ingredients whatsoever, so look for that in the grocery store. We want the good stuff, the pure stuff. It's low on the glycemic. It's a great way to sweeten dishes, especially at this time of the year when you want something a little bit more warming and hearty, and has a bit of sweetness that you won't feel guilty about. And then here's the sea salt, some black pepper, and we're gonna go ahead and give this a toss. Just wanna make sure everything's nice and evenly coated, not too dressed. But again, the amount of butternut squash you have in your bowl will be according to the size of butternut squash you have. So this is about a medium-sized butternut squash. All right, so this is going onto my parchment paper lined baking sheet pan. And I have my oven set at 375 degree, and we are going to get this right out, ready to roast. All right, so the butternut squash is in the oven. You want them to roast for about 30 minutes or so, depending on your oven, just until they're fork tender. So literally poke it with a fork, and when it goes in smoothly, it's good to go. In the meantime, let's make our dressing. So what I have here are some dried cranberries, and I've just been soaking them in about 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. So it's about a 1/4 cup of cranberries. They have been soaking, and this is my favorite part. It brings a ton of flavor to the dish and a ton of health qualities. So it plumps up the cranberries so you have a really good bright bite, and also it's, you know, a good textural bite. But then we're gonna use the juice from the cranberries in this apple cider vinegar for the base of our dressing. So get this, so I'm gonna try to hold back as much of the cranberries as I can, and I'm gonna pour all of the apple cider vinegar that's been infused in the cranberries into a separate bowl, and this will act as our acid for our dressing. And so it brings a really bright flavor, and then the cranberries will continue to really plump up from the apple cider vinegar that we have in here. So I'm gonna set the cranberries aside, and I'm gonna start my dressing in this bowl. So the only thing we're gonna add to this is a teaspoon of good quality Dijon mustard. And so let's get this right into the bowl. Perfect. And then we're gonna give this a little whisk. It's a very simple dressing, but I swear that one step goes such a long way. And then we're just gonna take a good olive oil and start to slowly emulsify the dressing. So you just want enough olive oil that you are whisking, and you start to find that emulsification where all of the ingredients really get together, blend nice and smooth, and then you get the thickness of the dressing that you're looking for. So we're looking for something that's not too watery, has a little bit of substance to it. It'll stand up to the Hearty kale, the farro, and the butternut squash, but it's still really bright from that apple cider vinegar and cranberry. Perfect. This looks right on task. Look at that, guys. So the only thing we're gonna add here is a little bit of sea salt, some black pepper, and this just enhances the flavor, brings everything out. And look at that. We're setting this guy aside also. All right, so the next steps we have going for us is just simple chops. We're gonna be tossing the butternut squash and the cooked farro with the dressing we made with some kale, a little bit of sliced red onion, and some chopped pistachio. So I'll give you a little trick of the trade to finding the thin pieces of kale. So we have a really pleasing to the palate pieces of hearty greens, as well as easy to digest, and also just something you can keep in your arsenal of tricks in the kitchen. So what I have here is a full leaf of kale, and what we want to do is we want to remove the stem because it's the bitter part. It doesn't taste as great, and it's also harder to digest. So I folded it in half so the stem is really exposed, and I'm going to take the tip of my knife and just peel out the stem. And there we go. And from here, I've already done this one. As you can see, I just have the kale itself, and we're gonna stack as many leaves as you can with the stems removed. And here's the trick to the trade. So I'm gonna take this kale and just roll it up as tight as possible. So you have this roll that looks like this. And then I'm just gonna run my knife from one side to the other, watching your fingers, using your knuckles to guide. And then you have these perfectly chiffonaded kale ready for your salads. There you go. So I'm just gonna continue to do this at about a cup or so of kale. More if you want more of a green salad, less if you want more of a grain salad. And then I'll catch you guys back in a minute. Okay, so the last two things we need to chop are the red onion and the pistachios. So what I have here is a red onion, which I've simply cut in half through the root, okay? That's the key. And then I've chopped off the other side. That was not the root. And that helps me to gain easy access to peeling the outer layer of your onion. And you can really cut this onion however you want. It's gonna be raw and it's going to be in the salad. So you can also completely skip it if you prefer, if you don't like raw onion, but I think this gives this dish a good little ump. And I'm just gonna do a really thin as possible, almost shaving of the onion. Always keeping the flat surface on the board, and then cutting down. So this was a larger onion, so I think just about 1/4 of the onion is all we need for this dish. And look how these pieces just separate into these long, thin strands. And so you see them in the dish and you can decide to avoid them, but it flavors the dish. Or if you love the taste of raw onion, it's also a great, easy way to catch that bite. Okay, so I'm gonna place this in a bowl on the side until we're ready to toss all the ingredients together. And we'll get going on the very last chop, which is our pistachios. So these pistachios have just been toasted on a pan on the stove, and I've had them cooling. And then I'm just gonna give it a good rough chop. Now I really feel like some of these ingredients can be omitted in this dish, but there's something about the pistachio with the farro and the cranberry and the kale and that delicious apple cider vinegar dressing that pistachios really pair well. And so I try not to ever skip the pistachios. But if you have to, a walnut would work really well, or even an almond or a pecan. Just toast them up, give them a rough chop, and then you have that nutty bite and texture that really complements the rest of the dish. All right, let's just get this into a little bowl on the side, and we'll get ready to check on our butternut squash, toss everything together, and give it a taste. And we are wrapping up this dish, guys. This is a very easy peasy dish. A little bit of prep goes a long way. It is perfect. It has a little bit of some brown edges, and it's definitely, we'll give it the test, but it's definitely fork tender, as you can see. I cannot wait to get this going. And the beauty of this dish as well, you can eat it cold, you can warm it up, however you're in the mood. But if you're making this real time with me, when you're tossing the cold ingredients with the hot ingredients, it starts to really melt down and taste completely crazy delicious. Okay, so here we go. In this bowl, I have my cup of now cooked farro. So it was 1 cup dry farro. I combined it with the water, cooked it according to the package directions, and it's about 2 cups now. And I'm just going to simply add the butternut squash directly to the farro. So I'm gonna take my handy parchment paper, fold it up, and go ahead and give it a good toss. There we go. And let's take out this hot pan out of the way. Okay, so as you can see, we have our cooked butternut squash, our farro. I'm gonna add a good handful of this kale. Oh my gosh, this looks already delicious. I'm gonna add in all of the cranberry that we did earlier. It's been soaking in the apple cider vinegar. It smells so pungent already. I obviously see that steam. It looks delicious. And I'm gonna start to add some of the dressing. So now the longer this salad sits, the better it tastes. So you can really, truly make this farro dish well in advance. Pop it in your refrigerator, let it marinate overnight, or double this up, have leftovers, and then the next day, either eat it from the fridge, warm it up on the stove for just a minute or 2 to take the chill out, or add a great slice of wild salmon on top. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit more kale, and again, this part is up to you. You can completely eyeball if you want more of a green salad or more of a grain salad. And I'm gonna start to add in some of my red onion. Perfect. I'm gonna leave some aside. You never know, some people are picky onion eaters. Some of the pistachios. And I'm gonna save a little bit for the top, at the very top, the garnish. Give it one more good toss. All right, so I'm just gonna get my serving bowl. And you are gonna love this view. I smell it. It has the pungent apple cider vinegar, the brightness, and then I smell that warmth of the maple roasted butternut squash. The kale is starting to wilt just slightly with the warmness from the cooked squash. The onion as well, and you have that chewy cranberry and the crunchy pistachio that we've toasted and chopped. This looks so divine. I cannot wait to dive in. And look at that, guys. Beauty, beauty. Saved a little bit of pistachio at the end for that extra garnish. I'm gonna do a tiny bit of sea salt and cracked pepper. You can always use a little garnish at the very end. You guys are gonna love this dish. I hope you make it. Let me know how it goes, and good luck with resolution, and I hope to see you guys soon at savorandsweat.com.